Okay, so we've been wanting to do this for a while. The some type of podcast. We had no idea what we were going to talk about, what we were going to do, but we came up with an idea and got pumped, excited about it, and wanted to tell the world what was happening. Okay, so this was my big announcement to the world. Drew Hopkins and I have talked for too long about it, and the time has finally come. Stay tuned for content from the Real Deal Landman Show is coming soon. And then I was clever enough to put like a couple of microphone emojis.
That was clever. I really like that. No, adding the microphone emojis is that's honestly a game changer, and you really see some numbers. That bumps it up for sure.
And I sent that to you ahead of time. I was like, hey, I'm going to put this out. What do you think? And you're like, that's cute. Yeah, that's good.
Add more microphones is what I think I said.
So now let's take a look at the Drew Hopkins announcement here. Do you want to read it or do you want me to read it?
I mean, you're doing such a good job. Go ahead.
Okay. So I don't know what my Drew Hopkins voice is. I'll have to figure that out.
That's going to come episode 5. You'll have it down pat.
It'll come. Okay. For years, I have always thought of myself and John Hamm, ... I don't know if doppelganger is the right word, but some might say identical twins separated at birth with the exact same level of devilishly handsomeness, sophistication, and sharp humor.
I'll can't make an argument against any one of those yet.
Okay, so you still stand by this?
I still stand by it. Yeah, of course. Okay. Of course, I'll stand by it.
In the same breath, all caps, I hear all the time how Jerris Johnson has always been compared to an aging, slightly less prone to outbursts version of the great actor Billy Bob Thornton.
And I mean, to be fair, you and I have been on the speaking circuit for a long time, and we talked to a lot of different people, and there has been many comparisons along the way of you to the aging, slightly less prone to outbursts. Like, I've heard it right before I go on. People are like, did you know Jerris is in the other room? Another outburst from that guy. And I'm like, I know. Aging poorly. That's the other thing I always say. But please go on, please.
Yeah. Aging poorly is good. As soon as I turn on the microphone, this I'm like,
oh, I did the same thing. Like, and I mean, I don't want to take away from this absolutely just knockout of a post that you're reading, but
yes, because we're not done. It continues.
Go ahead and hit that, and then we'll go into a couple of these things.
Imagine to our surprise when these two basic mirror images. So yeah. Basic mirror images of ourselves signed on to star in Paramount Plus's new show, Landman. Jerris called me up, and after his normal outburst, suggested that we put on a weekly podcast to talk the show, life, Landman at work, and so much more. Being John Hammish, again, this is Drew reading, writing, speaking. Being John Hammish, I cut a couple of good singers and chuckled as I checked out my hair in the nearest mirror, and we had dreamed. The Real Deal Landman Show was born.
It was born right there.
So just as proof to the audience, what were some of those awesome zingers that you threw at me?
You know, there were so many of them. I don't want to narrow it down just to one or two. I feel like every time we talk, I feel like we have some pretty good diatribe back and forth, and it's always interesting. What I really want to do is it's so fun to make these announcements, and it's more than anything, it's fun to be able to partner up with somebody that I know likes to have a really good time. And I always anytime Jerris and I are around each other, we always end up laughing like crazy. And we're talking about days of past. We're talking about the different events that we've been to. We're talking about really just the industry as a whole and how it's changed our lives for the better. But there is so much, and I know everybody listening out there would say the same thing of, there's so many absolutely hilarious stories, and it always keeps us laughing, and it always keeps us just totally entertained. We were at a We were at a convention where were we? Where were we talking about this? And it was like spur of the moment that you were getting ready to go on, and you just walked up and you were like, "Hey, I honestly think we need to do a podcast." Was that was
That
that
was the
Pittsburgh or was that?
NALTA conference in Houston.
Okay. Yeah, and I mean, it's stuff like that of where it's just kind of spur of the moment, but we both have been thinking about different things for a long time, and we've had so many wonderful conversations. Why not just bring those out and bring others involved to be able to be interviewed as well? And I think that's going to be the thing that I'm going to enjoy most out of this. The Landman Show is a perfect opportunity. I don't think there's anybody else in the industry that has even had that bright idea to put together a podcast for that. I mean, I can't think of one or six. There's probably six, if we're being honest, right? So
We'll have some copycats.
wait, I mean, we might be the copycat if we're being honest. But the main thing is, I think ours can be completely different, and I think it can be very unique because of the experiences that we both have. And the thing that I wanted to do right off the bat, this isn't a show where we're reviewing episode 1 or really talking about episode 1. We might talk about the trailers here in a couple minutes. But for the people that don't know myself or they don't know Jerris, I mean, I think that's one of the things that you and I had bonded over the most. Can you kind of give a little bit of background of yourself, like who Jerris Johnson is and how you got into the energy industry?
Man, if I do that, I will go so long-winded. This thing will take forever. So how about this? Grill me
Okay.
with some short Q&A that I can
Okay,
answer.
let's do short Q&A. Okay, I like that. So let's go with where'd you grow up?
Enid, Oklahoma.
And
Familiar with it?
that's one of the things that we first really bonded on. So Enid, Oklahoma was where my grandparents were from. A lot of farmland around there. Lot of trips back and forth. I was from Ponca City, and so whenever I knew Jerris was a what is it? Is it Plainsman?
Yes,
Is it the
yes,
Plainsman?
Enid Plainsman.
Enid
Assuming
Plainsman.
that's still the mascot. Honestly, I don't know.
I know. I'm not sure if we're still the Wildcats either. I assume so. I assume we're still losing 7 to 10 football games a year, as is tradition with Ponca City. So what was your first interaction in Enid, Oklahoma with the oil and gas industry?
So my dad is a roustabout when the whole time I was growing up. He worked for a couple of different outfits when I was younger, and then when I was a teenager, he went out and worked out on his own. Continues to do that today. I don't know if roustabout is actually like the most proper term, because that does have a definition, and he doesn't always fit that definition. But he's got a 1-ton flatbed. He's got a welder. He pulls a backhoe. And he goes out every day and does the work of a 3-man crew. And he would hire more people, but nobody else was good enough to work for him or with him.
So did you go out whenever you were a kid? Like what age did you first go out, and did you drive the backhoe? Did you learn how to drive the trucks just like all us farm kids?
So I would go out on a couple of jobs here and there with him. When I was 16, like days after I turned 16, he had a side business associated with it where he would mow well sites. So he pointed to a map a few days after I turned 16 and said, "Do you know where Chickasha is?" And I said, "No." And he said,
Figure it out.
He said, "Go south on Highway 81 for about 2.5 hours and you'll hit it. And I need you to go mow these sites." So I take off down the road. A car runs a stop sign in El Reno, and I T-bone that car. So this is my first day on the job.
I was going to say, that's a good first day at work.
Yeah. 3 days after I turned 16. So clearly it was not my fault. Called my dad up and he said, "Does the truck still drive?" That was his first question. Does the truck still drive?
And the most important piece to this equation, for sure.
That's correct. And he said, "Okay." I said, "Yeah, it still drives." And he said, "Okay, well, get a police report and get on down there." So I drove down to Chickasha. I had never successfully backed the tractor off the trailer by myself before. So this was going to be my first run at backing that out. And so that was my first like solo oil and gas job. And that entire summer was disastrous. Like And my manual labor experiences have continued that way, even through adulthood. I'm not afraid of work, but I am a massive, massive klutz. I'm terrible. I'm super uncoordinated. I have the strength of a 10-year-old. I mean, it's bad when I try to go out and do that type of work.
Is too funny. But I mean, you kind of caught a bug, I guess, and just it being in the family, like probably being able to continue to see it and everything that made you want to pursue this as a career, I guess. Right?
So yeah, I mean, so when I would get home at night and just covered in dirt and dust after sitting on a tractor for 12 hours in the open sun, I'd walk in and he'd, had to go, and I'd give a quick report of what I got done that day. And then he'd say, "Are you going to go to college?" I'd say, yeah, I'm going to go. And he said, "Okay, good. Just making sure." And I said, I don't have to do this. I was going to go anyways. I don't necessarily need to learn that lesson. And it was, I just want to make sure. So yeah, I was the first person in my family to go to college out of high school, and I had no idea what I was going to study. And I had a friend whose dad was a geologist, and clearly he didn't think I was going to be smart enough to be a geologist. And so he said, "Well, you might make a good landman. OU has a program for it. Go check it out." And so I enrolled and did it. And I
your smart level, like I've
yes,
got to know you. You ain't here.
It's
I
not.
mean, you're right here. So let me tell you what's right here. That's landman, baby. That's the sweet spot.
So there's the three pillars, right? I mean, there's lots of functions and jobs, but the
Right.
three main pillars are engineering, geology, and land. He didn't even bring up engineering because that's not even in the equation.
You don't want anything to do with this.
Yeah.
You're going to be much better off not even attempting.
And I knew he was a geologist, but he would not offer the option of geology as something that I could do. It was just something that existed. No, for me, it was, I think, out of all these jobs, landman is probably your intelligence and skill level.
Welcome to your wheelhouse. That is
Yes,
too
this is
funny.
where you live. You live right here.
Well, and so fast forwarding, going through college and everything, the first time that you and I met was Chesapeake Energy back in what year? You were there for what year to what year?
Did 2 stints, which is probably a story for another day, but I did 2 stints. I did 06 to 08, and then I did 2011 to the end of 2014.
Okay. And I was 04 until 17. So, or 05 until 17. That was a long time.
Yeah, you were
ago.
like born there. And
I
then
was. I really was. I was born there. I was in the nursery there for a while. The nursery being the record center, and man, like so many stinking stories. That's one of the things that we want to get to on this podcast is some of the things that we remember and some of the things that I think you will find very fun and entertaining. And it's amazing that a lot of this stuff hasn't been talked about until now, kind of on an open forum. So, yeah, Jerris was like, "What do we want to put out there? What can we put out there?" And I was like, "Oh, it's all fine. It's all good. We're past the point of no return."
Sure.
It was fantastic. Like meeting Jerris there for the first time, and remind everyone listening and myself, what area did you focus on whenever you were there on land?
So I did Permian the first time. I did Permian the second time, and then was part of the team that sold Chesapeake's Permian assets, which I'm sure it wasn't long before they wished they hadn't done that. And then after Chesapeake sold, then I worked the Eagleford for a stint.
That's awesome. And I can't remember exactly where in there that you and I, like, our paths crossed kind of for the first time. But I remember like looking at the land department, and like I haven't even talked about like my background and everything, but I always, number one, I was probably in that same vein of where the mentors and everything that I had of, I grew up Ponca City, Oklahoma, like we said. Let me do like the 2-second version of getting where we are. Ponca City, Oklahoma, both of my parents were teachers. Dad was a 9th grade Oklahoma and American history teacher. He's 85 right now. He's absolutely still just sharp as a tack, can pull pieces, preambles of the Constitution. He can pull anything to the letter, and it's so fun to talk to him about that. And my mom was a 1st grade teacher, And growing up, they said, and everybody said, from the church, from the school system, from everything, whenever Drew would come up, they would say, you're obviously going to follow in your mother and father's footsteps. You like to talk, you like to be around people, you like to share knowledge. You too, sir, will be a teacher. And just like when everybody tells you this is what you're going to do, or this is the direction that you have to take, I wanted absolutely nothing to do with that. Now I teach oil and gas, classes at different. I teach OCU as an adjunct professor used to be for the Energy and Legal Studies program. Get to do so many different events all around the nation, which is just the joy of my life. And I think maybe there was something to that teaching. I enjoy that part of the job so much. But Ponca City, as you know, was a huge hub for Conoco, and that's where they have a refinery there. And so it was in the Ponca City school systems. You grew up, and you looked at all of your friends, and you looked at your friends' parents, and you'd go over and you'd play at their house. And I remember this was like in the mid 80s, how, number one, well dressed and so professional. And we had a little airport. We still have an airport in Ponca, but the private jets would be going back and forth from Ponca City to Houston or over to Bartlesville, where they had their other offices.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember what year it was, but I just remember looking at that and I was like, that is the height of opulence and like luxury. These people have it. And, it hit me at such a young age that I was like, oh my gosh, the oil and gas industry is so cool. Like, it's so stinking cool. And so I love that. And so went to college in Oklahoma City, always was kind of around, the Chesapeakes, the Devons, but didn't really know a lot about them, and didn't I'm not going to lie to you. College was a little bit of a deal. Like I to say I was unstructured it's a bit of a stretch.
Okay.
It's definitely right. So whenever they were like, you're graduating in 2 months, what are you planning on doing after that? I was like, I don't know. What am I supposed to be doing after that? Does college provide me with a job? Like, I had no clue. After college, got a little job. Absolutely loved it. Had some fantastic mentors along the way in Moore, Oklahoma, and then got an opportunity to join Chesapeake. And whenever I was joining Chesapeake, I just remember when I interviewed, I said I thought I was pretty hot stuff, and I was like, this is how much I need. I'm leaving this other job to get this job. And without outing the people that interviewed me, they countered by offering me $6,000 less than what I was even getting paid at my last thing. And they said, this is Chesapeake Energy. If you want to work here, you're going to start at this. And I accepted 12 hours later. Like, I wanted to be a part of it so bad. And I knew I knew I liked the land department, and I didn't know why. I started out working records, moved on, like lease analyst, land analyst for a while. But all the friends that I started gaining, like yourself and so many others, started looking at the land department, and I was like, these guys are the deal makers. These guys are making these things happen. They're going out. They're so fun to talk to. They're so just, type A personalities, which I'm really drawn to. And they are helping just build this machine that this was. And then I started finding out that wasn't just the way it was at Chesapeake. That was the way it was everywhere. And I was like, man, land department is the way to go. And so got some fantastic, again, luck played 2,000% of what I can consider a successful career. Met Wade Brawley, the VP of land admin there. He's been absolutely fantastic through my whole life and taught me so much about the industry. One of the best landmen out there. And he, throughout his career and throughout our interaction together, of him being able to introduce me to so many people and to be able to build up my credentials on what I know about the business. And that shifted over to, not jumping too far ahead, but Chesapeake was absolutely fantastic. The places that I got to work was let's see, I get to go to Haynesville quite a bit whenever we were buying all of the Haynesville assets. The Utica, I would go back and forth up there to help landowners be able to understand their leases and to help with a lot of the different issues that kind of came out of that. And then I did a considerable amount whenever we had our Dallas office. Our Fort Worth office, excuse me. I was back and forth there a lot. And I'm trying to think of the county that I was in absolutely all the time. That was
Tarrant?
Not Tarrant. Haltom. It wasn't a county. Haltom City was where I was like all the time. Fantastic place. Talked to thousands of owners over the years. Am so proud for how many of those conversations started so bad and ended with a good handshake and a good understanding. And I think that's what I'm excited about, like the Landman Show, to see how they handle those interactions with the royalty owners. I'm excited to see the ones that you and I both know that they will definitely talk about, of people wanting you off their property, like how they're building a unit, all of the different little things that just made it so fun. But I say all that to say I had so much fun at Chesapeake. I had so much fun in the space of being able to help build software for the land space. And that was an absolute joy, and the people that I was able to work with there. And then now working in the field of energy consulting and being able to talk on so many different fields of land production, you name it, being able to work through and work with companies that we formed relationships for our entire career. And that's what's made this career so absolutely enjoyable and such a blessing to my life. And I know you would mirror the same thing. But I like what it all boils down to, of going to these, like Enid, Oklahomas, going to these Ponca City, Oklahomas, seeing how those towns are affected by the energy industry, especially in Oklahoma, especially in Texas, and in some of these other places, and being able to see how the energy industry keeps those towns moving, right?
Yeah. So obviously you're an awesome dresser.
I
I mean,
try.
you have John Hamm devilishly handsome looks. Have you ascended to private jet status?
Is that not the absolute worst of? I think one of the worst things that ever came out of Chesapeake, and I'll scream it from the mountaintop, of being able to travel. Where was it? Towanda, Pennsylvania, Elmira, New York, some of those places, and even down to Fort Worth every once in a while, Charleston, West Virginia, or Charleston, right? That's where we go, I think, every once in a while.
Yeah.
Go out there on the PJ. That's what we called it. You guys want to go get on the PJ this afternoon? It was getting spoiled. I started Chesapeake at, I think, 23 years old, and I think I was in my late 20s. The first couple of times I got to be a part of that, and then it became a little bit more commonplace of where I get to go up and travel a lot. And for a 27, 28-year-older, early 30s, who started thinking that this was how life was going to be for the rest of the run, of, oh yeah, like I can just go out and somebody takes my keys and parks my car in a hangar, and I jump on this jet and don't have to go through TSA, and jump right on and get off, and a car's waiting for me, and turn around and do the exact same thing on the way home. Now I can tell you the amount of bitterness and anger of standing in the B position at Hobby Airport waiting for my Southwest flight that is 42 minutes delayed. I don't know if the camera picks up all the gray that's in the beard or the thinning of the hair. It
does.
Thank you. That B37 position, after going through those years of jumping on that private jet, they came about a lot quicker because of that.
Drew, I know that for the most part, we want to be able to keep this podcast pretty light.
Right.
and we don't want to be diving into trauma. However,
That's right.
I do have to one up you, and I'm hoping I can get through this without getting choked up.
Yeah. No, take your.
But last week I was in a similar situation, but I was in the C group.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I don't even know what that is. You say C group, I have no clue of what that is.
So engineers get A group, geologists get C group, landmen get C group.
That's right. No, I understand. I understand the transition of how everything's changed. Your job, my job, it keeps us flying pretty regularly. But man, there's some certain things that you definitely miss, and certain things that I will remember for the rest of my life that were absolutely I should have had no part. I shouldn't have been able to sniff some of the beautiful things that were afforded to me because of the connections that were made, the people that I knew, and the wonderful company that I worked with also. So, yeah, C group it's a tough pill to swallow, buddy.
So you've had an amazing career, and actually like far more interesting than what my career has been, which begs the question, there's a Landman Club.
Uh-huh.
And I've been a card-carrying member of the Landman Club for a while. I thought you were, but somehow now I'm getting notifications that I need to sponsor you to be a member of the Landman.
So here's the...
One, what happened? And two, why in the world should I stake my reputation on allowing you to be part of the group?
No, you shouldn't. And you did, which I really appreciate. No, that was one of the things where within Chesapeake, of course, you go through the process, be able to get registered, get certified, and got all that going on, running through the mix, renewing every year as we do with everything. It was just on repeat. After transitioning over to work oil and gas software and do that, there was that point in time where I was like, do I need to continue to keep this up? Like, is this something that like I need? And I did. I really did. So I would set that calendar reminder. I would renew the membership and be good to go. And then transitioned again to the energy consulting and was just blowing and going. And you and I had talked about this, and I thought this is perfect because this is both Jerris and my background. This is something that we're going to be able to talk on. And then I thought from kind of like I want to say like the analytical side of it, but I was like, it's not going to look good or I think I thought about it from the outside of, I was like, there's going to be a lot of other podcasts that are doing the same thing. And I was like, I guarantee you, some of these people aren't even a member. They're just wanting to get a podcast out there. And I was like, thank goodness that Jerris and I are card-carrying, flag-waving, just members. and then I thought, I haven't seen that email come through for a while. When was the last time that I actually updated? And so I emailed my absolutely fantastic contact there, and I was just like, hey, I may have let this lapse by like I don't know, a month or two. Can I just go ahead and send a check over? And she was like, the last time you paid was like 3 years ago. So yeah, we need to go through a bit of a process this time, which I'm thankful to you. I'm thankful to her, and I'm thankful for the whole thing to get me at least a little bit of validation here. The little that I have in life.
Okay, well, welcome you back.
Thank you. Is there any sort of a party or a welcome basket?
No, not at all. Not at all. It's the honor of continuing to pay to be part of it.
Yes. You know what? If those are the clubs that I'm allowed in these days, I'll continue to pay.
Oh yeah, it's like very exclusive.
Very for that exclusive membership. That's right. That's right. Exactly right.
That's right. All right, let's talk about the show.
Let's talk about it.
Not our show. Let's talk about the Landman Show, not the Real Deal Landman Show, but the Landman Show. So, what are you hoping to see in this?
Well, so before we got on here, we don't have an episode to review or to analyze and go through and nitpick every little thing that we see, and we're like,
and we don't want to do that anyways.
I don't want to
the fun stuff.
Exactly. The things that I looked at the trailers and everything like everybody has. I love like where you've got the Billy Bob Thornton under you, I got the John Hamm under me. I love both of those guys. I mean, if you look back, John Hamm, Fletch, Mad Men, Fargo, if you saw that on FX, he's amazing. Like he's absolutely amazing. He's a fantastic actor. I'm a sucker for the guys like that had the really really sharp comedic timing, and he's got it. Like he is just absolutely hilarious at a moment's notice. And so I think that obviously it'll be a serious show, but I'm hoping for a little bit of that humor thrown in. And then what better person? I think John's name in the show is Monty Miller.
Man,
And
that is oil bearing if I have ever
that's
heard it.
hardcore. Like I feel like I know a very similar landman name that they may have stolen from, and that might need to reach out and I don't know, to Paramount and get some sort of a cut. Can we do that? We'll set it up. Billy Bob Thornton, another one of my absolute favorites. I mean, again, Sling Blade, small part in Tombstone, but one of the funniest parts, I think, awesome in Friday Night Lights too. And again, the comedic timing that he's got is so stinking funny. Like he is so funny. So I know this isn't a comedy. I know it's not a comedy. I know everybody's looking at it for like I almost feel like the oil and gas industry is overanalyzing something because we're so excited to have like a show that we can like relate to, but like feel like we're a part of. And I am also super excited for those episodes where it's like completely off base, that is completely just, off the rails, that, is going to be a lot of fun to talk about just because we're like, oh yeah, we totally saw that. Totally saw that too. So it's going to be pretty good. The one thing that I will say, the trailers looked awesome. It looked like they had, problems with land ownership. They're butting heads. They've got everything from the banks that they're working with. Looks like almost the mafia-esque, portions that are going to keep it very interesting. The field work he's talking about, that being so dangerous, and that's going to be really exciting. One of the lines that I think he said, that Thornton said, and Thornton's name is Tommy Norris. That sounds like that's they did the research too. I know maybe
Okay.
20. I know maybe 22 Tommy Norrises that work in the field at this point.
Yep.
So,
Okay.
but one of the things they said was this town totally relies on the oil and gas industry, and that was the part that we kind of talked about a little bit earlier, right? I was saying there's so many towns, and you drive West Texas, you go through all these places. The perfect example is Ponca City, Oklahoma. That town was oil and gas and still is to a point, but in right around 2000, they decided to make the decision to move all of kind of the corporate work to Bartlesville or to Houston. And it was a mass exodus of all of those families where I talked about earlier on, of saying, looking up to all of my friends' families and being like, oh my gosh, this is the height of luxury. Well, in one fell swoop in a 4-month span, I would say 30% of your population, 20% probably more realistically, of your population that were doing pretty well are now no longer in that town. And to see the difference that made it's jarring. And even this many years later, And so when I hear them talk about that, I think that's a unique angle to take of how much a town is reliant on the industry. And, we'll see how it plays out. What are you thinking?
So I'll admit this, I've never watched a Taylor Sheridan show. So this is going to be my first experience with that. The trailers have been entertaining, I will say. So they've got a poster for the show that was floating around social media, and it's a pumping unit that is engulfed in flames, billowing black smoke into the air, and it's got the Landman title under it. So being the smart aleck that I am, I posted the picture and I asked the question, or I made the post. I said, a question that has never come up in a Landman job interview. So how many burning pumping units have you encountered? And so wanted to share some of the comments that we got from that. We don't have anything like fan mail yet.
If you think we're going to get fan mail from this, I think that kind of goes along with our thing of what
We
group.
set up an email address so we could get fan mail.
I'm going to get renewals on my home insurance in that, and like what's
Your
the
car
other?
warranty has
Yeah,
expired.
my warranty has expired, and my Kohl's. I have Kohl's cash that I need to spend. That's the
There
other
you
thing.
go. Yeah. Well, if you are interested, it's show@reallandman.com. I'm sorry, show@realdeallandman.com. Okay, so here's some of the comments that we got. William Phillips, a land supervisor, said it'd be a pretty boring TV series if it's about actual landman work. Let's see. Christopher Shannon, a JD and CPL, said, I'm going to have to watch it to explain to all my non-industry friends why I am nothing like Billy Bob.
I like that.
Yeah, very accurate. They said, well, it's hard to put an exact number on it. After a while, they all seem to blur together. In terms of how many burning pumping units he has encountered in his job. Yeah,
That's a good one.
That's a good one. Let's see here. What's another one? And actually, somebody, like some technical people smarter than us, said, look at the photo carefully. It's not the well that is on fire. It looks like the motor burned up. So it's not necessarily like the well is on fire. It was a gearbox issue or something like that.
God, I like
Anyways,
that.
that was a lot of fun, like seeing people's different thoughts about, just
I
getting
didn't
kind
even,
of a glimpse in terms of what people are expecting.
I didn't even think about that, but that is going to be super fun though, isn't it? Because we have so many like people that are technical and they understand like what's going on. Like, okay, so what do we know is 1,000% going to happen? Like 1,000% going to happen in the show. Where am I putting the money down and how much? They're drilling on a rig, and either they're going to have pipe break, disconnect. They're going to have like a blowout.
Blowout, of course.
A million. And I want to, I'll probably be wrong. I think it's going to go down as like the crew and like the rigging crew and everything are going to be like the most inept rigging crew that's ever been shown. And it's going to be like this successful company, but we might get like, shots of like 10 different wells throughout the course of the first season. And there's going to be like there's going to be disasters on like every one of them. I feel like, I feel this isn't like a walk down, like have two hands on the ladder and like 3 points of connection, or walking down the stairs with like a hand holding. People are going to be running around. That's the thing that I think isn't going to be rooted in reality too much. I think it's going to anger a lot of people from the field because of that.
Insurance rates for legitimate companies are going to skyrocket from adjusters and like quote analysts or risk management people are going to watch the show. I had no idea that it was necessary for a landman to wear his flame retardant jacket to work every day. Clearly, this is a very dangerous profession.
Well, you weren't working at Chesapeake, I guess, in the same year as I was. That was 100% all of us for a while of flame retardant jackets every day. So,
it must have been in that window when I wasn't there.
It 100% was like 2 months before you came back. I think we dropped that policy.
Okay. All right, man, let's wrap this up. And you can think on this for a second if you need to. So who is a mentor or somebody that you would look to that has helped you become the John Hamm that you are today?
So I already mentioned Wade Brawley. He's just a staple in the land and the land admin community for absolutely just years. And he's at every event. He's spoke at so many, he's very eloquent speaking on just a wide variety of topics. And he knows more about land and land admin, or he will forget more than most people will ever know. Looking back and looking at the land contacts that I've got now, because of the Chesapeake connection and because of just being able to go out to Houston, to Denver, to Midland, I'm going to be really honest. Like, I could take the next 30 to 40 minutes of just listing off different people that have made like a profound impact, and I love it. Like, I absolutely love it. It's always the easiest group to go in to a company that you don't know, and to walk in and be like, hey, Drew Hopkins, does one of your landmen or does your land manager or VP of land or whatever have a few minutes just to talk? And whether it's about work or anything else, I always know it's going to be a fantastic conversation. It's always going to be somebody that's super personable, and I think that's just amazing. It's really, really, really fun. I will probably have way more that I want to talk about, like people wise, throughout the next episodes that we do. But just know, if you and I have had interaction in the past in these different land roles, I have been absolutely the fortunate one to be able to glean anything that I learned from you. So there's so many people out there that I'm thankful for.
Nice.
How about yourself?
Nice. Yeah, so I will same story, in terms of so many different people. So I was digging to the back of my brain trying to think of maybe a specific story or event, and I'll take advantage of this opportunity to name drop a little bit. So for those who are active in this business, will know the name Ted Collins Jr. And during one of my stints at Chesapeake working the Permian, we had Ted Collins as a partner in one of our projects, and it came out to where I needed to go to Midland and meet with him. And they took me into a conference room, and me and one or two of his other business partners were there, and said, asked me some questions about the project as to what was going on. And I answered those. And then I said, hey, I just got to ask you, like, you're a man of amazing reputation. You've built so much for yourself. I just got to ask, how did you do it? And that simple question of how did you do it turned into an hour, like, mini seminar of all the things that he had done in his career that brought him to the point to where he was. I don't remember everything clearly in terms of what he said, but just knowing that he was the person who he was and had the experiences that he had had and the wealth that he had, that he would take time for a 20-something-year-old landman and spend that time. And it was very evident as to how valuable that was, because once he wrapped up, he said, I'm sorry, but I really do have to go. And he walked out of the conference room, and his partner spun around his chair and he looked at me and he said, how did you do that? And I said, how did I do what? And he said, how did you get him to be focused and spend that much time with you? He said, I have to fight daily for a couple minutes of his time for critical decisions. And he just spent an hour of, one-on-one conversation with you. And, he was joking somewhat, but it really painted the picture as to how valuable that was. And, something nearly 20 years later, I still remember.
That's awesome, man. I mean, that's what it's all about, right? I don't want to forget Larry Kosho's another one that I absolutely love talking to.
We need to have him on here.
We need to have Larry on here. Like, Larry's
would be amazing.
When you were talking about that, like he's been one of the ones that I feel like every time I feel like I'm hoarding his time, whenever he has so many other people to talk to, and he's just such a popular guy, at all these events, and he has just such an incredible mind for that. But to go back to what you were saying, of to be able to do that, and to be able to, in your 20s, to be able to grab somebody and be able to pick their brain, it's so meaningful. And it goes back to that mentor relationship that I think we all talk about with any of our jobs. I didn't realize how quickly this would all go. And to look and to see, like, starting in like 2004 and it being 2024, 20 years like went by, and everybody watching or listening would probably say the exact same thing of, goes by so fast. And there's been so many times where I have been so fortunate of people that are younger than me asking me advice, and I thought, I'm not old enough to be able to give that. And then I was like, what am I talking? What am I talking about? I have a mirror. I can see what I look like. I know I'm old enough. But that is so true, and it's something that like I'm really trying to do a lot more of at this point in my career, of being able to help people like they were in turn helping me, and I get so much joy out of that, and I know you do the same thing, and I think it's kind of one of the reasons too, right? Why we like going on these different speaking events, to be able to meet people, to be able to share what we've picked up along the way, and just really to be able to be that person that we were lucky enough to get to experience, as we were coming up in the business.
Yep. Well, buckle up, Buttercup. Got some good
Buckle.
times ahead.
I'm excited, Jerris, and for anyone that's listening, anybody that's stuck with us for these 46 minutes, we really appreciate it. And we are new to this. We're going to make some mistakes, but we're also going to, I hope, tell some pretty fun stories. We're going to review something that's looks like it's going to be really enjoyable for us, but mostly we're just going to talk about this business that we love, and we want to hear from you too. So reach out to us, connect with us, and we'll see you on the next episode.
All right. See ya.
See ya.